Hello, friends, and let's jump into a weekly card reading that is on our second and final eclipse of this eclipse cycle. It is going to be a week. I can see that from the cards. I can feel that from the energy. It is going to be a week. Remember, this is not a personalized reading, and if this is all hitting you really intensely, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me and get a private reading because it will be a lot more personalized, of course. But in the meantime, if you pick a number between 1 and 4, it's going to give you the sort of focal point of this entire reading. Okay, so this week, as I say, is an eclipse. We have Venus and Mercury still retrograde. Mars is still in shadow. It's just, there's so much going on. I do have a forecast on my YouTube channel. I'll put the link below for this eclipse, which will be supportive and helpful for you if you are feeling this energy tightly, especially if you have anything in the very last degrees of Pisces, up to the first decan, first 10 plus degrees of Aries. And then, of course, that's going to impact all of the first decan of all of the cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, and then also the last degrees of the mutable signs. But I'm not going to get too far into that. You can go and look at that forecast if you would like to check out how this impacts your chart. I've brought in a lot of love, a lot of hearts today. And this cloth was actually my gran wore this at her wedding, and she was an Aries as well. So bringing that in as well. Okay, get ready. Here we go. It's a rough one, all upside downs. The Tower card is kind of known to be a little bit intense. It's so funny because people who know nothing about tarot tend to find the Devil card or the Death card to be a little bit scary, but more people who know a little about tarot, I think, get scared off by the Tower card. You know me, I'm the queen of the reframe. So when something is scary, I have an Aries moon myself, and this eclipse will be conjunct my natal moon. So when something feels scary, I try to find a way to reframe it and charge ahead anyway with this this pioneering emotional intelligence is kind of how it plays out in my chart. Okay, so we've also, if you've been watching me for a while, you know that I always find fives to be quite challenging cards because they are the middle of a journey where you're too far down the path to turn back, but you can't really see the end in sight and you're just getting a bit despondent and flat. And we literally have got two fives here. This being swords being the element of air and cups being the element of water. We also have a fire card, and then of course these lightning bolts of the Tower. So very little grounding us this week. There is this feeling of, and all upside down. So it's like I can't see the wood for the trees. I don't know up from down. I'm feeling completely overwhelmed. So let's start with our five of swords, and it's a bit of an anxiety card. When it's upside down, I do worry that there is either deceit coming at you or you are being deceptive, anything to try and avoid what you're feeling and thinking, and stuck on this spiral of thought which is kind of negative and you just can't turn the wheel. But I would definitely say that you need to be mindful of feeling guilty about your wins, but also how did you come by your wins? Were you coming by them in a deceitful manner? And then watch for being, so keen for peace that you can't actually be present in the chaos, because it is chaos now. So this is a big one for me. I just want everything to be peaceful and calm, and I'm not in charge of making everyone around me peaceful and calm. I am only in control of me, and I am an empath, so when everyone around me is not peaceful and calm, it takes a lot for me to stay in that state. And that's very much where this kind of anxiety and overwhelm and intensity can be coming, for you trying fiercely to just be in this space of peace and wanting everything to be okay, and the realization that there actually are no winners in this situation or in any situation. Remember Aries, the eclipse that we're having is in Aries. We're now in Aries season. Aries is a warrior. Aries is a pioneer. And when we go to battle, even if you win the battle, even if you win the war, you're not a winner, because life was lost, relationships were broken. And yet sometimes that kind of conflict and that kind of release and that kind of death, and that I'm not meaning death physically, although obviously in actual battle it is that, but dying off, what things that do need to die off, but it's uncomfortable, and it's hard for us to be able to sit with, right? So let's turn this card around just so you can see it upright, but knowing that we got it upside down. There's our other 5, and she, in fact, I mean, if you look at the energy, it's just draining from her down that portal, and she has already emptied 3 cups, and she's currently emptying the 4th with her foot. Like, I mean, she doesn't even have the energy left. She's so upset and apathetic and flat that she's just using her foot because she can't even reach across to empty the bowl. But she's missing that bowl. She can't see it. She's very downhearted. She's very downtrodden. She's very depleted. She's allowing herself to get more and more depleted, maybe than she needs to be, in fact. And she hasn't realized that she's getting this gift, that there is a full, beautiful, abundant cup. And that when she's emptied out this old, when she's cut the old patterns, the old ties, the old relationships, then actually she'll be able to receive a new. So in protection, or upside down, is where we sort of go, what past trauma are you not letting go of? And are you crying over spilt milk? And it's really, really important to let go of the old stories. Don't become jaded and callous and just get stuck there. Rather decide, what is it that I can do to change my story? Because when this card is upside down, we are definitely not letting go of the trauma. And we are refusing to go deeply into the shadow and come out the other side like that pioneering warrior to push through the darkness, and instead we're getting stuck in it and rooted in the trauma. And that's obviously not something that's going to be good for us moving forward. Then we have the 4 of Wands. Let me turn him around. Joyfully abundant in its upright form, very much about celebration and gratitude. Upside down, I want to come back to gratitude. I want to say it's really important to be grateful for what you have. It's really important to not forget the little things, like that first morning coffee that just makes you feel good, or a call from a friend just when you needed it, or calling a friend and them saying, I just needed to hear your voice today. Those small things, going outside and taking a beautiful breath of the fresh air, waking up a new day, going to sleep with gratitude. These things are important, because if this card is upside down, it's just further indicative of the cards that have come before it, talking about this overwhelm and the stuckness, the stagnantness. This reading this week is showing me that we are feeling stuck and stagnant, and the energy around us is the furthest thing from stuck and stagnant. So what that says to me is that there are many of us, most of us, that are trying fiercely to cling to the old way, the way we've known, even though that way is not so great and we really are ready to move forward. We don't think we are. So now, saying that, whatever card you picked for the week is going to be your area that you're holding on more tightly. So if you pick card number 1, you'll find that your resistance is very much intellectual and mental. Like, you are refusing to tell a different story about you. You are locked into the idea of who you thought you were. So let's say it's a job that has to completely change. You are locked into being associated and identified by that role, that job, that company, or that relationship, or whatever it is. And you're like, I cannot not be somebody's wife or somebody's mother. And actually, that's probably exactly what you have to do. You have to change the story. If you got the 5 of Cups, you're more looking at the emotional stagnation, that trauma, being defined by your trauma, not wanting to let go of your trauma, and thinking that it's so hard, because the irony is, I feel like we're very stagnant in this reading, but it's easier than we think if we just stop being so stubborn, which is also an Aries trait. If you chose the 4 of Wands upside down, which is probably the least uncomfortable of those 3, you're going to really be looking at how you can move your body, how you can dance, how you can find joy, you can find passion and just fun and playfulness and gratitude and celebration in the small moments. That is such a seemingly small thing, but it'll completely change your frequency. Don't underestimate it. And even if you didn't choose that as a card, I would start there, because these other ones, they're tougher. So try to find some space to have fun. And then our last card is the Tower, which Again, upright, the tower is literally about lightning bolts, sudden changes and shifts and shocks and paradigm like resets. So upside down, again, clinging to what we know, refusing to let change happen, getting stuck and stagnant and sedentary in our energy field, in our bodies perhaps. And usually what happens with this card is the more you resist it, because it is actually about magical quick change. And it doesn't always feel magical when you have quick change. And that's why a very extreme example would be a person who has a nearly fatal car accident and has a life, after death experience, or loses a limb or something like that, has to learn to walk again. Something really, really intense that feels like a horrific thing. But in that person's life, they choose to let that become part of their new self. They maybe become a motivational speaker, or they find a way to be a paraplegic athlete, or whatever it is. They begin to be inspired and inspiring, even though that came from the biggest shock and shift in their life. And I'm not wishing that on anyone. That's an extreme example to explain how we get to choose what we do. But this card, as scary as it can be, because it does say quick change, sudden change, unexpected change, very likely unwanted change, it still is bringing about that which we need, the change that we need. And the more stubborn we are, the more the universe, God, whoever you want to, whatever words you want to use, the more they have to come in and go like slap you upside the head to change direction. And definitely it has been my experience that the places that you are least likely to surrender to change yourself will be forced in some ways, thrust, shocked upon you. But down the line, the healing that comes from that is profound. So don't resist the change. And then with all that stagnation, resistance, refusal in our 4 cards, could we have chosen a better dragon? Fire and water dragon. Literally, Pisces is water to Aries is fire. And what happens when you combine fire and water? You create steam. It is like a locomotive train. So the wording on this card, just the few short little ones, is enables your life to flow with loving force. Prepare for change and move forward quickly. Expect the unexpected and have fun. So it's as if this dragon, the fire and water dragon, which is a 4th dimensional dragon, is going to say, I'm sorry, I see you're trying very hard in your personal lives to be stagnant and stuck, but that is just not what these times are about. And he is going to stoke the flames on that train and get the steam going, and we are all aboard for a crazy ride, a crazy, beautiful ride that is exactly what we individually and we as humanity and we as earthlings need. So really try to trust and imagine, I hate roller coasters, but that feeling of getting on that fast train. I've got this image of Harry Potter in my mind where they get on the train and the train like goes through all sorts of weird things, like going through the wall to get onto the train to start with, to get onto the platform, to get onto the train. And just the speed at which the train goes is not the normal train. And initially for Harry, having not been around magic, he didn't understand these things. And then the shock of that first time, I want you to feel like that. It's scary, it's overwhelming, but also he was coming from a horrible existence and living under the stairs and with a horrible aunt and uncle and cousin. And even though this was scary, this was fast, this was intense, this was overwhelming, it was the beginning of a completely new magical place for Harry. And I want you to think about how that can be for you. Where is my resistance? Why? Because a lot of my resistance is coming from not wanting to move out of spaces that have not been good for me. If I'm honest with myself, they've not been good for me. So why am I clinging so damn hard to them? And let me have the courage to get on that damn train and race across the country, the world, the planet, race to all the planets, go into the cosmic chaos and be rebirthed. Okay, this is a long one, sorry. Have a beautiful week and remember to look me up for a private reading if you feel the call.